Welcome to Medicine Forward, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. We're very excited to present this program to you this evening. I'm Lisa Marshall, Chief Philanthropy Officer and Vice President for Philanthropy and Alumni Relations at Atrium Health, Wake Forest Baptist, and the Wake Forest University School of Medicine. Our School of Medicine Dean, Dr. Ebony Boulware, was planning on being with us this evening, but due to an unavoidable circumstance, cannot be here. But fear not, we have two wonderful speakers this evening to give you an update on all the exciting happenings with our School of Medicine. So we have a wonderful program, and I'm quite sure that you will enjoy it, and we thank you for being with us tonight. I do have a couple of housekeeping items that I want to share with you. First of all, at your seat, you do have a microphone in front of you, and we do strongly encourage you to ask questions this evening when we get through the program. So please make sure that you turn your microphone on when you want to ask a question. And you also, at your seats, have a gift bag in front of you. Just a little bit of School of Medicine swag. Just wanted to make your evening, so when you leave here tonight, you can tell everybody that you know all about the Wake Forest University School of Medicine. So we do hope that you enjoy the items in there. There's some good reading material to update you on things in the school, and just some fun items to enjoy. So thank you for being with us this evening, and do share all those goodies from the School of Medicine. So we're honored to have all of you with us here this evening, and we're very fortunate in that we have some great partners that we work with in Charlotte at the Atrium Health Foundation. And so this evening we have Mark Griffith with us, and he's going to say a few words to welcome everyone. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Your program may say Armando Chardiet. He is the president of Atrium Health Foundation, but he is under the weather. He sends his regards, but he's unable to be with us this evening. So on behalf of the Atrium Health Foundation, on behalf of Armando, welcome, and welcome for so many of you to Charlotte. For years, this town has dreamed of a medical school. I think we've been told we didn't have a medical school 1,000 times. The excitement for the long-awaited addition to our city and to our healthcare system is profound, and we are so fortunate to have Wake Forest University School of Medicine right here in Charlotte. Dr. Strowd, Dr. Birch, welcome. We look forward to this evening. We've already had the chance to meet with Dean Boulware to collaborate with her team, and we look forward to continuing our work together as we continue to welcome more and more classes to Charlotte. So it's an exciting time for Wake Forest University School of Medicine. It's an exciting time for Atrium Health, and especially for Charlotte. So thank you for joining. Sit back, enjoy the evening, and again, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. We're glad that you're here this evening. So I do believe that we have several students who are with us tonight as well. So I'd like to ask our students to stand up and wave to the group. Just one. Okay. Thank you. Do you want to share your name with us and what year you were in?
Sure. Should I turn this on? Yeah.
Sure.
He's a young person.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey everyone, my name is I'm from California originally, on my 4th year of medical school, and thanks for everything.
Let's see. Well, thank you very much for being here. We're glad that you're with us this evening. So Wake Forest University School of Medicine is the academic core of the Advocate Health enterprise. Think about that. The academic core. That has a lot of meaning. So the term academic core really is significant, and having committed to following the academic learning health system model, Atrium Health, Wake Forest Baptist, and the School of Medicine are poised to apply that model across Atrium Health, now part of Advocate Health, and serve as the enterprise's academic core. This model builds on the traditional academic medical center model in several important ways, but really capitalizes on the unique resources that the medical school has to offer. So an academic medical center is a medical center where training and research take place, and we intend to do that better than anyone. So at this point, it is my pleasure to introduce our speakers this evening. I'm going to ask Dr. Roy Strowd to join us first. He is the Vice Dean for Undergraduate Medical Education at the School of Medicine. He is also an Associate Professor in Neurology, a neuro-oncologist, clinical trialist, an educator who specializes in brain, spinal cord, and peripheral nerve tumors. Do you do anything on your spare time? Okay, tremors, tumors, yes. Roy is an expert in brain tumor treatment and specializes in inherited tumor syndromes. He co-directs the neurofibromatosis and tuberous sclerosis. I practiced that. Clinics. His research is advancing the field of neuro-oncology by discovering new treatments, new tools to assess whether treatment is working, and improve the quality of life for patients. As an educator, Dr. Strowd is very passionate about developing the next generation of healthcare leaders. He has published more than 100 articles on these topics, has been funded by the NIH and other major funders, and collaborates nationally and internationally. He is a member of the class of 2009 of the Wake Forest University Bowman Gray School of Medicine, and he completed his Master's of Education at Johns Hopkins School of Education in 2018 and his Master's of Science at Wake Forest University in 2020. Obviously, he's bored all the time. He completed his residency in neurology at Wake Forest University School of Medicine in 2013. And Dr. Strowd began his work at Wake Forest University School of Medicine in 2015. And as you can imagine, we are very, very honored to have him as part of our team. Dr. Strowd.
Well, it is great to be here. I am not Ebony Boulware. And I'm a bad stand-in for her tonight. But if there's anything you learn in medicine very quickly, it is to be flexible and adaptable. So we're going to be flexible and adaptable tonight. If there's also anything you learn in medicine early on, it's this phrase, see one, do one, teach one. So I have seen Dr. Boulware go through these slides once. I guess now I'm going to do one and go through these slides with you tonight. And hopefully I don't get fired from one tomorrow, after all this is over. In addition to that mouthful and very nice introduction from Lisa, I am a proud Wake Forest alum. Are there other alums in the audience? Really great. I'm also a Charlottean and from Charlotte, and it's great to be here with you and in this phenomenal building surrounded by this great place, and really talking about, as we just heard, this incredibly exciting time for Charlotte, this incredibly exciting time for the school, and I think an incredibly exciting time for patients in and around this region. And that's most of what I think Ebony would have said as she kicked off her slides is as you leave tonight, hopefully you leave more informed and with questions answered, but mostly inspired that this is the place to be. And if you are a student, you want to be here. And if you're a faculty, you want to be involved. And if you're a patient, we want you to come and feel that sense of community. And if you're someone who's interested and excited about what's going on, we want you to be a part of the family. And there's many ways to do that, and you'll hear about some of those later, but there are a lot of ways to contribute, and now is a unique time to do that. And all of the people that you'll see tonight are here for the same reason. They're excited about an opportunity to really do something neat and new as a part of this school and this health system and the city. So this is the state of the school. I shouldn't be giving any states of schools, but we're going to walk through where is the school? What is the school? What are we doing with education, with research in the community, and where those things stand? And you'll see some things that excite you that you'd like to ask some questions about, and that's really what tonight's about, is getting your questions answered. Dr. Boulware would start with the vision and the mission, and she came 2 years ago at a time of tremendous change. I don't know why she said yes. She's bold and visionary, and it was a time when names were changing, when colors were changing, when the concept of what it means to be a school training students, a school involved with residents, a school taking care of patients, and in a health system was changing. And she has brought the vision that is on this slide today. And it says that we will be the most impactful academic learning health system in the nation, fueled by discovery, education, and innovation. And she means every single word of that. Every day at our cabinet meetings, every day at the discussions, she is working, and you'll see all the work from our teams to really make this the most impactful school in the third largest not-for-profit health system in the country, and to do that through education and training. You're going to hear a lot about that tonight. To advance research that is patient-involved research, and in innovative ways. And you'll hear some of the technology that are being brought to that. And within that large ecosystem of a health system, of a school, of an undergrad campus, the Renolda campus, the role of the school is to be a preeminent medical school that fuels the success of the health system. And that's really what's unique about what Lisa introduced about this academic learning health system, is the school is driving the advances that are helping improve the lives of patients across now a 7-state health system through scientific breakthroughs, development of a talented workforce, and cutting-edge expertise and innovation. And you'll see how some of those words are playing out in decisions being made and investments that are being made and work that is being done across the school. One of Dr. Boulware's first initiatives was really to define core areas to focus our work. And these are the 4 core areas: is to invest in the school, to develop our system, to engage in the community, and to create a culture that attracts everyone into this ecosystem and atmosphere. The focus in the school is to be that best in the nation, and you're going to hear about some of those things. We've seen this just in the fall. This year we've received over 12,600 applications from medical students that want to be a part of Wake Forest. That's the most we've ever received. That's more than last year and the year before and the year before. There is excitement to be at Wake Forest. There's also really just excitement to be in medicine. Applications are going up across the board, and whether that is climate change or COVID, people are seeing the impacts of health in their backyard and want to contribute to that. And there's an opportunity to help train that next generation. We're working on a one-school mentality, and you will hear about things happening across the school in both of our campuses. And I hope that you hear within that all campuses are moving in the same direction. We really are one school with one mission, and we deliver one MD, that Wake Forest MD student, and those Wake Forest trainees, PA, nursing, and graduate studies students as well across the school. There's a lot of excitement about the impact of having a school in this broad health system, and there's work in both education and research spaces. And perhaps one of the most important and impactful research endeavors is the development of a national center for clinical trials. Wake will really be the only school that has a clinical trials infrastructure that spans 7 states across an extremely large health system to fuel research, to take ideas that are happening in the lab, in the cell, and to drive those forward to impact patients because of its size and its scale. The community is critically important, and this is one of the real exciting areas in Charlotte, is to contribute and engage with a community that hasn't had a med school. And we'll talk about what that means for the school and what that could mean for the community. And culture is really, really important. You don't have a curriculum at a med school without a strong culture in your physicians and your faculty, and it's really central to a lot of the things that we do. And there's a lot of work in areas of justice, belonging, character, humanism in medicine as we work to develop this new we team culture across the school. So her slides are oriented into an update on education, an update on research, and an update on some innovation areas. And I'll kind of quickly go through some of the highlights that she would probably share and want you to know about. The first is education. The school is a little bit bigger than the MD program. You're going to hear a lot about medical student training, but the school trains a broad swath of students that are going out and contributing to health care and health in many ways. That does include the MD program. Currently, that's 579 students, and you'll hear over the next 4 years that will go up to about 950 students, the largest trainer of medical students in the state. But we have other really important programs. The biomedical graduate program has 418 students, and that is also a growing area that supports the research work that we'll talk about. 169 PA students. The PA program is in the top 5, 7 to 10, number 7 in the country. It is a phenomenal PA program, one of the early trainers of PA students. I just came from clinic working with a phenomenal graduate of this program, and really an important aspect of developing a broad healthcare workforce. And then a growing academic nursing program with a new chair that's really doing exciting things in areas of nurse anesthesia and those areas of medicine. The goal of the MD program we'll talk about in just a minute, and so I'm going to move through this slide and we'll focus in on medical student training a little bit later in the talk, but there's a lot of interest. Again, this year there's over 12,600 applications. Last year you can see it was 12,100. The school has always recruited heavily from North Carolina. About a third of the class comes in from North Carolina, about 2/3 from around the country in various areas. More women than men are interested in medicine these days. It's about 55% women applicants, and this past year I think we were around 58% of our entering class women. And a diverse student body is critically important to the school because we take care of a diverse patient population. That has become more challenging in the wake of the recent SCOTUS decision, and Wake Forest has really continued to prioritize developing a broad and diverse student body. We're very proud that this past year, 31% of our entering students, a third of those students, met one of those key diversity targets for the school, and those are things that we determine based on the diversity of the population that we serve. And that's around where it's been over the past few years, around 35 to kind of 36% or so. We're really excited about all the things happening in the Charlotte campus. You don't need this picture, just walk out the door. That building is phenomenal. And a medical school is more than just a building. The students actually don't spend all their time there, don't tell them that. They spend a lot of time in the hospital and early mornings and late nights, but a building is really, really important. It is that icon of a school being present and fixed in the community, and it's an important part of building that school culture. We're very excited to expand the school to the Charlotte campus, and you'll hear about some new things going on, but this is not new. Students have been rotating in Charlotte for many, many years. The infrastructure that exists, the dedication to training is an over 30 years long experience that the team here has, and the school has been excited to partner with all of the existing dedicated individuals, and you'll hear from one and some of them tonight to grow medical student and other training here in Charlotte. Here's what some of that growth looks like, and you can see where we are today with about 33 of our third-year students rotating in Charlotte, and over the next 5 years, that will ramp up to 96 students per year. And Wake will train 96 students a year in Charlotte, about 145 students in Winston, and again, about 1,000 students across the school in the state of North Carolina, across a broad range of sites, and you can see where those are in the Charlotte region. Really getting students embedded into many areas of the greater Charlotte community and area. There is a rich group of individuals that have been training students in Charlotte for many years, but what is very new is that first 18 months of medical student training. And we've been delighted to grow a faculty to help train students during that period of time. And we've had to push them away. I think I counted today, there's been over 168 applications from educators around the country who want to come to Charlotte, want to be at Wake to train students in that pre-clerkship period of time. We've had to whittle that down. Dr. Birch has worked with a team to select these really 7 phenomenal faculty that are developing the curriculum that the students will walk through, and you'll get to see some of the fruits of their labor in Dr. Birch's talk later tonight. So a lot happening with education. We'll dive a little bit more into that as we go through. But beforehand, let's talk about some of the things going on in the research area and innovation. The school really thinks about research from cells to society and is supporting researchers doing cellular work, those early discoveries to understand how we can do better with the diseases that affect our patients and populations and move that into society. And some of the greatest advances in the school are really in that society area. There's a lot of investment in how do we translate new discoveries, not just into the clinic, but into the home and into society. And you can see some of the infrastructure that does that: 21 collaborative research centers, 8 areas of focus, 3 national translational centers of excellence, and those core focus areas right now are in cancer, neuroscience, and cardiometabolic disease, but there's investment across the entire research continuum. The school has been working through a research plan for excellence, so that's a dedicated plan to advance research strategically in these 9 areas. And you can see that the important ones that are probably on the tips of your tongue or in your mind: advancing how we think about Alzheimer's disease, diabetes and obesity, cancer, neuroscience, cardiovascular disease. Regenerative medicine has been a strength of the school for many years and continues to be, as well as efforts in aging and mobility. Since Dr. Boulware came on board over the last kind of 2 years or so, $48 million has been dedicated to focus recruitment in many of these areas, and another $22 million through an opportunity fund. And this has been really the fruits of the partnership between the school and Atrium Health, and a really valuable opportunity to invest in important research areas. There's been a lot of work to grow the research pool and bring in new investigators, and in the last year and a half since Dr. Boulware began, 8 new professors, 11 associate professors, 20 assistant professors, over 40 new faculty have been hired in that are doing this work today to make discoveries in these areas. And that includes across both campuses, in both the Charlotte and Winston campuses. We'll talk about some of that exciting research, or she would have talked about some of that exciting research across the health system. And she would have excited you a little bit more than I about what it means to be this academic core of a learning health system. And this is probably why she's not here. She's in Chicago somewhere making that happen, bringing the school to all of the places where care is provided. In Wisconsin and Illinois and Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina, and the school is infused in conversations in all of those areas to bring research and clinical trial opportunities to patients, to bring teaching opportunities to physicians and faculty, and to help drive the patient care mission forward across now this broader advocate health system. Some of the great successes that the school has had in this area in the last just year and a half is to create a national single IRB. And for anyone who has been involved in research, IRB is not a 3-letter word, it's sometimes a 4-letter word. And it's like, well, when's it going to get through the IRB? And it needs to go faster. And in order to do great research, all of this health system needs to be on one IRB. That means if I open a study in the Cancer Center in Winston-Salem, patients in Wisconsin can have access to that, and vice versa. And that's what's happened in the last year, and this is critical infrastructure that will allow research to advance at a faster pace. Very exciting has been the development of this new national center that I mentioned, the Advocate Health National Center for Clinical Trials. Typically, to do a trial, you spend about 1.5 years or 2 years bringing a group of collaborators together, getting it through the IRB, finding funding, and then finding a group 4 years later that are going to run this study. And there's not enough patients for your idea in one area, and so you go recruit collaborators across all areas. That slows down the pace of discovery and advancement. Advocate Health will have one clinical trial center where pharmaceutical companies can come, ideas can be generated from within, and quickly disseminate across the health system. Critical infrastructure to drive advancement forward more quickly. And there's a lot of smart people working on how that will work, both on the clinical trial side to advance discoveries into the clinic, as well as on the discovery side. New discoveries and new innovation at those kind of early cellular levels, and ultimately getting those into patients and into clinics and influencing society through the development of Advocate Health's 3 national service lines. So that was the do one. Now you've seen it, so you're going to come up here and do it next time. I hope what you have been able to get a sense of is just a lot of the exciting work that's happening. And right now, if you're an educator, a researcher, a clinician, a student, a resident, there is a place for you to be involved in something very exciting. That's why we see a lot of applications to come to the school, and hopefully you have some questions as we get to that portion of some of these areas. So we're all going to take a deep breath, maybe grab a sip of water if you need, and we're going to shift gears a little bit. And I'm going to introduce myself for the next set of slides and put on the Vice Dean hat for undergraduate medical education. And so for the next maybe 10 minutes, I want to come down from the stratosphere of the school and all the things happening in the school and focus specifically on what are we doing for medical student training and what are the exciting things happening within medical student training. And mostly we're going to talk about why is it so exciting for the med school to have a campus in Charlotte? Why is that tremendously valuable for the Charlotte community? And why is it so valuable for the campus to be embedded in this area? And we'll kind of talk through that in a number of different ways. So this is the real me. And then we'll get to just a really exciting part of the night in talking with Dr. Michele Birch, who I'll introduce in just a minute, about some of the technologies and innovation that are happening in the curriculum for medical students here. So what's new at Wake Forest? What's new at the Wake Forest campus here in Charlotte? It is a really exciting time. And on the recording, they're counting the number of times I say exciting, and it's already too many. But it's just hard to have another word for, what's going on around the school. There are new buildings, there's new student rotations, the students are excited, the staff are excited, the faculty are excited. There is just a lot of interest in being a part of what's happening, so I'm delighted to share some of that. And I'm going to try and take a step back. There are folks in the audience who went through med school. God bless us all. There are folks who did not. And so I want to sort of step back and talk about, well, what is a med school? Why is it valuable to have a med school in a city and in a community? And we're going to talk about through these 3 areas. A med school is more than just a curriculum. It's its mission. So what is the mission of this med school, and how does it meet the community? It's a group of people. You'll hear about some of the work that people are doing. It's a program. It has a curriculum. We'll talk a little bit about that. And it is placed in a community. And I want to talk about some of the work to place this med school in this community, and would love to hear questions from you about each of these areas. As we talked about, we are one school with one mission and one MD. So if you graduated from Wake Forest University School of Medicine, so will all the students that come after you. And the same reason that you came to the school is the reason that they came to the school. They may do it in a different spot, they may be next to a different person, but all those same things that you've come to love and know, that program directors love and know, that patients know about what that is, continues across the school in all of its campuses. Our students apply to the one Wake Forest University School of Medicine. There's not a campus-specific application process. During the application process, they preference a campus, and we look to align the campus with the needs and goals of the student. They work through kind of med school and have access across the campuses and graduate with that Wake Forest University School of Medicine, MD. Our mission for medical student training is a little bit more specific than that from across the school. We are working to educate future physicians empowered to transform health for all. You gotta love mission statements, right? Like 400 consultants were consulted to develop this 5 words, probably. It's not actually true, it was 400 faculty and students. But it is really important, and those last 2 words, for all, is one of the unique features of coming to Wake Forest. We're not a state school. We don't receive those types of state dollars. And over time, the school has really looked to cultivate this space in medical student training. We want to receive students from all walks of life, all states in the country, all regions and environments, and as they are here, inspire them to primary care, to subspecialty care, to surgery and non-surgery, whatever is going to help to change the lives of a patient. And so we really do seek a broad exposure of students as they go through. That's what we've heard as we've talked to folks in the Charlotte community. That for all is really important. And fortunately, that's baked into the school. So if we look at some of the metrics of the school ranks 94th percentile in our students' exposure to health disparities during their training. 90th percentile in experience in community health. It's always been a part of training, and it is and will continue to be an important part of training, including here in Charlotte and in the Charlotte community. We're at 77th percentile in experiences in cultural awareness. This is why I went to Wake. I knew I was going to leave being ready to take phenomenal care of patients no matter where they come from or the background that I have. And fortunately, once they come, we keep them here. So we're not one of those state schools, and yet 30% of our students graduate, stay in North Carolina, and at 5 years, we have a 30% retention rate in the state. That's pretty exceptional for a non-state school, and kind of right where I think we would like to see that mark. Over the last couple of years, we've been working on some strategic pillars to drive our work moving forward, and we're working on innovation, community engagement, our people, and national visibility. And I'll talk a little bit about some of these things. If you'd like to know more, please ask questions about these areas, but a lot of our work is in that, and you'll hear that. So med school is a little bit of its mission, but it's a lot of its people. And if you ask 3 people, what's going on at Wake Forest? What's going on here in Charlotte? This is what one student would say. This is a graduate, has since left, but was maybe in this hallway 1 year ago. And he was here, and he had just applied to residency programs, which is one of the most trepidatious and anxious periods of time in med school. Just like Ulysses just said, he looks calm, cool, and collected, but inside he's a little, where are these interviews and things? And this student at that time said, I will always be thankful for the countless opportunities this institution has provided to me. And I'll look forward to seeing its continued growth, success in the near future. Wake Forest is not just a stepping stone, it's a launch pad for dreams. And I was like, hey, Michele, we got to capture that quote. But it's an important reminder. Students expect to match to a residency. That is the most important thing that's going to happen in their training. And this was said by a student who's right in the midst of feeling the uncertainty of that. And he's recognizing that the value of his last 3 years in the next 6 months is developing the foundation for his future career. And we do a good job with Match. We do make that next step and help our students to make that next step. These are the Match data from last year. 99% of the students matched. A lot in primary care. You can see internal medicine and pediatrics, down there, but a lot in subspecialty areas. 36 in North Carolina, and so we're really fulfilling that mission. But we do a lot more than get our students just to match. And it really is inspiring them to figure out who they want to help and how they can contribute to that. This is not the student I talked to 2 days ago, but is the event that we talked about. This is the Foot and Ankle Clinic here in Charlotte. A group of students here set up this clinic, a student-run clinic, to take care of foot hygiene for patients. Nobody looks at their feet. When's the last time you looked at your feet? But it turns out the care of the feet is critically important, particularly if you are homeless or if you are underserved or undercared. And this is a group of students that go and sit down and wash someone's feet, take care of the hygiene of their feet, and give them a free pair of shoes. And I was talking to one of the students who participated in the last clinic, and she said this was the most humbling experience of my med school. You don't know what it's like to connect with someone 2 feet below their head washing their feet. And it made me realize why I'm doing this and what I want to be doing in the future. That event, that one night, is going to change what she does, for the rest of her career. That's what we're looking to do with medical students, and that's what they would tell you if they were here. We'll ask Ulysses later. Our faculty would tell you the same thing. So med school is also about its faculty. We are really excited to develop a growing faculty here in Charlotte. And here is one quote as we went through our LCME preparation from a faculty member who said, "I had such an incredible experience as a rotating medical student at Wake that I just wanted to be a part of the training program. It was the people, the culture, the community that made me want to come back after fellowship, and I've been here ever since." Turns out if you walk around Winston-Salem, you hear this. If you walk around Charlotte, you hear this. There are graduates of this school everywhere who are tremendously excited to be a part of this, and there are people who are not graduates who we are drinking the Kool-Aid and sort of bringing into that family, and this has been a really exciting part of growing the school into this new community. We also hear it from our graduates. This is a quote from a program director that received one of our Wake Forest students, which reminds me of what we're doing, and then we're probably doing it pretty well. "Your PGY1 surgical resident was perhaps one of the most prepared for a high volume of work that I've ever seen since taking over as program director. I believe the level of entrustment she had as a medical student must have been amazing. She had some prior experience and she did some great work. Your medical school should be proud." And that's what med school is about. If you're in Charlotte, if you're in Winston, if you're in the Midwest, it's about being there with a faculty member guiding you through seeing a patient and giving you that leash, that leeway to really figure out how to do it well and ensuring that the patient is being taken care of. And that's baked into all of what we do for medical students across both of our campuses and all of the school. So what's a med school? It's a lot of its mission, it's a tremendous amount of its people, but there is also a program. And the program here in Charlotte at the Charlotte campus is unique. And I'm going to quickly run through some of the priority areas of our curriculum, what we're really focusing on, and you'll hear from Dr. Birch about really those unique and exciting areas in Charlotte. The School of Medicine is a school of Wake Forest University. The school's motto, for many of you who are attached to that school, and in whatever great way, is Pro Humanitate, for humanity. And this grounds all of what we focus on with medical student training, is training students to be prepared for the health needs of humanity. We do that through early patient exposure, integrating basic clinical sciences and that graduated entrustment. But it's not enough for the learners of tomorrow. They are looking for us to develop them as people, as professionals, and increasingly as leaders in society. And so if you asked me what I'm really excited about it in our curriculum in the coming years, it is this third bucket. How are we developing our students to be leaders locally, regionally, and nationally in the communities that they serve, as advocates, as misinformation informationalists, in the wake of COVID, as folks volunteering and advancing the care of Western North Carolina in the wake of a devastating disaster. Those are the types of students we are looking to cultivate, and our curriculum is developing that mindset. Across the entire school, we focus on a patient-centered, population-informed, data-driven approach, and the student experience is a little different than it has been in the past. And the 4 years of med school are broken up into 3 phases. The first 18 months is the foundational sciences, where students learn not really in a classroom anymore, but you could call it that classroom-based kind of basic science training. Then students move into the clinical clerkships for an immersion through all of the areas of medicine, and the last year is individualization. You're going to hear in just a minute about some really exciting ways that the team has envisioned training in each of these areas in Charlotte. In Charlotte, that foundational sciences is very different than it is in many other med schools. It's small group focused, heavy touch. It's a problem-based learning approach where students are presented with problems just like we are in medicine. and have to solve those in the classroom, and that helps them to develop the skills to address that for the patient. The clinical clerkships across both of our campuses look very similar. Broad patient exposure, that graduated autonomy, and each of our campuses incorporate formal health equity curriculum into the clerkship years, again building in that key thread that the dean has visioned and would have highlighted. And then the last year is a phenomenal year for students. It is when they're really developing that future foundation, or the foundation for their future career. I want to end with just a discussion of the community, because a med school is nothing without its community, and there is great value of the community with having a med school. And for our students, this starts from week 2. And as a part of their launch course, there's a community engagement fair, and the goal is to get students connected to the community. We've got grant programs. I'll share one of the student-led grant ideas where students are able to explore avenues of connecting with the community, and a number of student-run programs that do that. And this is a great one. I love this. This is a student-led project where one of our students developed an after-school cooking experience for middle and high school students. Cooking Up Leaders is the name. You got to have a good name if you're going to do something good with cooking. And so she and this team recruited middle and high school students for 4 cooking classes as a part of some of their after-school work for these middle and high school students. And they learned how to bake or prepare, it looks like mango salsa, looks pretty good, and a number of other dishes, and ended with a graduation ceremony where the middle and high school students cooked a meal for their family. And they learned about what to eat and what not to eat and healthy nutrition, but secretly they were being delivered communication skills and teamwork and the value of community connection. And the students, as they left, said, I'm going to do this year over year. This is just a phenomenal way to really connect with the patients that I serve. And one of the moms left and said, I've never had this great a meal at home. You're going to start cooking, the whole time. And it's a reminder of the value of a med school, of students, and that student recharge and energy that can really drive a community, and how the community can contribute to that mission. So I'm really excited to discuss this with you, but before we do, I'm going to introduce our next speaker to excite you in one other way with some of the exciting technologies that are being used very uniquely at the Charlotte campus. And it would take 50 minutes to adequately introduce Dr. Michele Birch, and you don't want to sit here for 50 more minutes. So I'll briefly say, Dr. Birch is the vision behind so much of what you see in this Charlotte campus. If there's something happening for medical students on the Charlotte campus, she is involved intimately in just about every aspect of that. She has brought our approach to pre-clerkship training at the Charlotte campus, has led the team to do this, and she's going to share just a nugget of some of the work that she's done. So I'll turn it over to her.
Thanks, Roy. Thank you all. So I'm going to launch into just a quick highlight. We want to do a lot of time for question and answer. And I really want to phrase all of this in really this light of what Roy has said, what Dean Boulware would have said, is really what we're about. Oh, that's right. I need to stand over here. We're walkers. Roy and I are walkers, so we're going to get this here. It's really about taking care of you all and your family, your friends. And, having been in Charlotte for over 25 years, when we built this medical school, and with this in mind, with a great partnership with Wake, is really that continuing that pro-humanity. So as we talk about this, our goal, and Ulysses is a great example, is that every graduate, I want to be able to say, I want you to take care of my family member, my friend. And so this is really what our curriculum is about on both campuses. So as you see here, we've really lined up our pre-clerkship, which is those first 18 months before they start their clinical rotations, to be very similar in most respects. There is an outstanding curriculum in Winston-Salem already. Where we've done some few changes is really to emphasize some of those things that make Charlotte unique. So our ethics, leadership, and advancing equity curriculum what's really neat is our course directors across both campuses came together and said, we want to call out that as being so important to the health of our community. So our Charlotte students will be involved intimately in their community as they understand those social determinants of health that affect their patients. As you'll see here with our weekly schedule, the big thing that is different is really our approach, as Dr. Strowd highlighted, is our students will be doing a small group problem-based learning. And what that is really for those of you that maybe had gone to business school or something else, it's really a case-based approach. And so starting day one, they'll be understanding their foundational sciences in the context of a clinical case. Because we all know we learn best when we can apply it to something that's real. So one of the cases, for example, may be a patient with dyspnea. The students have to understand not just the clinical background, but what is the pathophysiology? Why is he dyspneic? And as that case unfolds, the students will be led in a small group session. We actually have one of our small group facilitators, future small group facilitators here, Dr. Holzhauser. They will be guided through that session as the case unfolds, and the students will be responsible for working as a team and individually for understanding the pathophysiology. That will combine it with their large group active learning sessions that might be a little more traditional if you went to med school to understand, okay, how do the lungs work? How does air get exchanged? But then in a longitudinal manner, then also focus on what is the anatomy behind the lungs? Why is somebody dyspneic? What are those tissues that expand? And they'll have the experience of like really learning about them real time. And that as that patient unfolds, which a lot of these are based on real patients that are de-identified, understanding, for example, that patient with dyspnea ended up having aortic stenosis that went undiagnosed for too long because social determinants of health, where he didn't have access to the care he needed. And they will explore what it means to have insurance, what it means to go sign up for Medicaid in their ELA course. Their clinical skills is really that undoctoring, where that same case, they will then go learn how to listen to a patient in every manner, learn how to really ask them those questions. What is it that bothers you? What is it that you feel when you experience that? But then also learn how to listen to the heart and lungs, and then be able to do all those undoctoring skills that we probably think come naturally. There's a lot of work that's involved, and what's really great about the Wake Forest curriculum is we start that from day one. Really those skills about how to listen and talk with a patient, how to understand their barriers and understand how we can help them overcome them. So one of the neat, fun things that we do is really now medical education has so many incredible ways that we can help our students learn. And so in some of these, this is just our approach to anatomy, which is really much like if you went to medical school, some of the same traditional, right? You need to learn how the organs are. We're doing it in a multimodal fashion. And this is through a combination of, for any of those that went to the Body Worlds exhibit at Discovery Place, these are actually some plastinated specimens. These were actual real humans who have donated their body to science. The plastination process allows the learner to really experience what the human body looks like in a very tangible way. These are real donors that have been preserved. We have a curated collection of these that our students will be learning from, much bigger than the Body Worlds exhibit, that we'll be excited to show you on display. And what's really interesting about this is then we have in our C4E building, which we're excited to show you all, is that the students will be going through a rotation. So it's not just learning the parts of the body, but they will be in one room while they experience what they could actually hold a brain. They can hold part of the temporal bone, which is incredibly difficult to dissect, as well as a full body cadaver. But then they rotate to the next room, and those big things, it's actually like a giant iPad, where with a swipe of the finger, you dissect the body. And not only can you dissect the body and see what's underneath in real time, you can see the vessels pumping. You can actually see what would happen if that vessel was occluded. And then pull up side by side an actual MRI of what the aortic stenosis patient might have looked like, where the diseased vessels were, what was going on with the valve. We can pull up actual clinical cases. Our surgeons are already practicing with it now. They can pull up cases that they've seen to show the learners, this is what this looks like in an actual patient, and this is the surgical approach we had to use. Or for the medical physician, this is what the downstream effects are when you do have a valve that's not working, and then the fluid builds up in the lungs. So our students are learning side by side with the real tools that they will be using later. They will have also the opportunity to do cadaveric dissection, both here and in Winston-Salem. So our students are really able to share the best of this new technology with also some of the traditional cadaver-based dissections. We also have amazing access now for those of you that ever want to play with virtual reality, as we'll talk about, with augmented reality. So you could actually, there's a program now where you can actually dive through the heart, just like you were a blood vessel, that you go through, and now all of a sudden you're in that diseased valve, and guess what? It's not working, so you pop back out. So students are able to experience much like a video game, but really immerse yourself in what is it like to have a diseased vessel, both as a person, but also from the standpoint of the anatomical. Our students now are trained starting in their first year with ultrasound. So that, for a lot that went to med school, like, that was just something radiologists did. Now, all of our students, and this has been a real benefit as they go into even our family medicine clinics as a family physician, it's a huge benefit if you're seeing a patient real time to be able to put an ultrasound on them right there and said, actually, your tendon's ruptured. We need to get you to the surgeon. Or actually, yeah, this is why your knees, yeah, there's a little bit of fluid in the knee. We can pull that off. All of our students are trained throughout their 4 years in ultrasound now. And you can see some of our outstanding students here going ahead and practicing it, as well as advanced procedures. So both with this and the other techniques, I'll argue it's no longer see one, do one, teach one. It is see one, practice 100, and then do one, at least. So with that, one of the things that we already do well in here in Charlotte, that we are just expanding upon, is excellent simulation. And simulation is really that experience of seeing a difficult case, encountering a clinical case in a team or individually before you ever actually see that in person. So when all of our airplane pilots, much more familiar, they have to really get trained in thousands of simulation. Medical education now, we realize we need to do more and more simulation before we actually have our learners see a patient or a faculty. There's so many rare illnesses. So this are actual pictures of our students currently doing simulation right here in Charlotte. Our new building will have even more. So on both campuses, we have these standardized patient encounter rooms that are just like an actual clinic with outstanding trained patients who are trained not only in what they need to answer based on what the student asks them, but also they know how to evaluate whether a student's palpating the liver correctly and can give them real-time feedback. Then we have what we call high fidelity, where I love our sim team over there. They've got the masks on. So that's our control room. And the control room, we can actually, as the students are in there, and they might be with a nursing student as well, we can do interpersonal. We have the whole case laid out, and based on what the learner responds, we can go ahead and adjust the monitor. If they gave the wrong medication, we can go ahead and put that patient into an arrhythmia that might be life-threatening. We can tell our nurse through our headset, hey, go ahead and pull up that medicine because they asked for the wrong one. It can be so real that our learners sometimes, there's tears, or there may actually be some shouting because they realize there's a moment of stress. We put sometimes a family member in there as an actor, and that person may realize what's going on and start yelling at the physician. These are real life situations, and what we don't want to happen is our learners to encounter these in real life without having the practice, without having that safe space to say, this is a difficult situation. I need to learn how to, when I get stressed, to respond calmly, to perform the procedure correctly, to then learn that side effect of the medication. So we do 100 of simulations, and then we do a debrief afterwards, where we say, what went on? You know, when you felt your body, how could you respond better the next time? How can we then learn? And it's so powerful. It's one of the things that students love the most that we will continue to do more of. And not only do we have these usual rooms in the new building, as well as here in the simulation center, but we also have activities of daily living, which is designed to look like a home. So our students will actually then be able to go over and learn, hey, it's not, I can just discharge the patient from the hospital. I really need to know, are they safe at home? And so they'll work with their interprofessional colleagues over in that skills lab to say, can they negotiate around the couch? And then so they'll be thinking about that before they send the patient home. The difficult part of simulation is it requires you get people together in one place at one time. So some of the exciting new developments are really about having that simulation in a virtual reality space, so that we can connect learners across Winston or Charlotte or Chicago, or bring your surgeons together with the nurse, regardless of where they are, to actually experience some of these same simulated patient encounters. A difficult situation where you need to break bad news, or a difficult outcome where somebody goes into a life-threatening emergency. So what these new VR, XR headsets or augmented reality programs do is they allow us to do that. And we are just at the cutting edge now, and in fact, of course, like all good med students, they are leading the edge. So that student at the top, Gwendolyn, is actually part of one of our student interest groups, Surgery in the Metaverse, where they've gone out and gotten their own grant for these headsets because they realize to be the physicians of tomorrow, they need to learn their surgical skills. They need to encounter these as much as possible. So if you notice the standard Domino's box in the back, like any good student meeting. And so the headsets, those are actually practicing your surgical skills. So these are actually designed so much like the same maneuvers that you would have to do in the OR, you're actually practicing. So again, the practice 100, if not 1,000, we are able to do with these new technologies. It also, what's really interesting is it's not just the surgical skills, we are also able to train our students and our residents, our faculty better on some of the communication skills. The new facial recognition software is actually able to give real-time feedback into when a learner is not making eye contact with a patient, is actually able to do a simulation where suddenly you are seeing yourself of a different race or a different gender and playing out the scenario and experiencing what it would be like if you were of that other. And what studies have shown is that is what increases our empathy, right? If we can walk in someone else's shoes. And so the new technology that we're really looking at and hoping to expand as we really drive that emphasis on our future learners, our future physicians for this community and beyond, we want to entrust them with every difficult situation, with each of our family members, with each of our friends, and really have the training and tools to do that in the most skill-based, but also in the most empathetic manner. And so really just a thanks to you all, for coming out tonight, but really for your commitment, no matter what your background is really to helping to embrace this Wake Forest School of Medicine and its arrival in Charlotte and really what it can do for us all.
Well, thank you both very much. That was terrific. I'd like to open it up to questions. So happy to take any questions from the group. We'll let our speakers get seated.
Why don't you just use the mic? Yeah.
There you go.
Just for Dr. Birch, you showed a slide early on comparing the Winston-Salem and the Charlotte curriculum. I can't tell from the words if those differences are just subtle or significant. Given that it's one indeed you were granting, how will you decide that, yes, this thing in Charlotte needs to move to Winston-Salem, this way of working in Winston-Salem needs to move to Charlotte? How are you going to do that?
That's great. Great question. You know what's great is we've had so much. Oh, sorry. The question is, given that we are one MD, how are we going to decide if one thing moves to Charlotte, one thing moves to Winston-Salem? Am I paraphrasing correctly? Yes. So really what has been great is this collaboration from the start, is our course directors meet regularly. There's been some evolution already. Like I said, the change in name. The course is roughly the same, but each one will have its own twist in terms of our Charlotte community will exist right here. They might do that. We actually have already been using the Sanger Teaching Kitchen and going out into the community and learning your local resources. We are continuing to innovate together. And so the simulation, the use of XR, VR, the use of even the sector tables. We have one Sectra, which is that giant iPad, up in Winston-Salem right now for them to practice. The other ones are here. So we're really all learning from each other. So I think we collect a lot of data, a lot of did this work for the students, a lot of outcome data, and that's probably what's really going to drive. I'm kind of a data person, so that's usually what drives me.
Yeah, and the other part of your question is we spend a lot of time talking about is if this is two campuses with two different approaches, how is it one curriculum and one MD? And the ways that students are taught on both campuses are different, but the expectations that students will achieve are the same. In fact, the tests are the same. We're not going to tell Ulysses the answers, but the tests are the same, the assessments are the same, the benchmarks the students have to pass are the same. It's not the content that's different, it's the way that content is delivered. And so all of that work for course directors to be speaking back and forth, to have communication back and forth really establishes that consistency and comparability. But there are a few other med schools that have an opportunity to have one curriculum and two different ways of doing it. Because it is a learning lab. We have two different, kind of approaches where we can learn what is the best way to do it. And as Michele said, we've already changed ways things are done on both campuses because of things we're learning, across both sides.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I guess you have to push something here. Middle button. All right. Patient, former manager of a medical practice. When we were at alumni reunion for Wake Forest, and the class of '58 was there, which your father was part of, and we got to see all the really cool robots and all that stuff. That class absolutely hated that idea, and their comments fit very well with medicine where it is today, which is they're not interacting with a human. They're interacting with a program, and they're not doing any touchy-feely. My experience in Medicare is I have a whole lot of 6-foot physicals. Stand away, look at the patient, how are you feeling, how's everything. You have to run into the doctors that you can say 6-foot physical to and they understand totally, and they say, no, I'm a touchy-feely guy. My brother's an orthopedic surgeon. When he touched a patient, I checked their knee out, run it through a range of motion, whatever. Doctors aren't doing that anymore. They get their MRI, they do that, but they don't actually touch the patient, and the patient actually jumps. What are you doing? I'm running your leg through a range of motion. Do the simulations help with that? I mean, are you getting the personal side of
They
this?
do. I mean, both. And it's really about training more of the soft skills. And that's what the simulations aid, right? Because in our clinical skills course in the pre-clerkship, they're doing a lot more than actually I ever had in med school with standardized patients and really getting some tough feedback from the standardized patients. So if we would train a standardized patient, and just like we train in our simulation encounter, to say those difficult things that sometimes as patients you may not feel empowered to, but we train the standardized patients, tell them afterwards, hey, when you said that to me, that didn't feel very good. And our students, because we all need to learn, and that's what I always tell when I'm working with my residents or students is like, I want to be called out because that's how I grow. And that's the growth mindset that we really are emphasizing. In fact, in the problem-based learning style, the end of each session is really us going around and saying, how did I do? How did we do? How can I do better? And that's really the mindset that the simulation and everything is really designed to give more and more feedback so we can all grow versus send people out and not look at them. And really, that's what I value so much, and I wish if you all could spend time with Ulysses. I just love him and worked with him clinically, and that's really the Wake student is, I mean, my patients afterwards said, is he gonna join our practice? And that's really what it's about.
And it's a good question, like, how do we maintain the patient at the center? The use of simulation hasn't reduced the amount of patient exposure time, it's reduced the amount of lecture time. The students see patients on week 1. They are thrust in there and learning happens with the patient, in front of the patient, touching the patient. I mean, that is still an integral part of training. The simulation stuff is actually, that's more active learning that's happening as opposed to kind of sitting in a didactic classroom, as opposed to replacing patient care time or patient exposure time. It's a really good question.
Yeah.
The best medicine is learned with the patient in the room there in front of you, but there are things that you really struggle to do and standardize without that rote repetition, and so that hasn't replaced the patient exposure, more the lecture piece.
Hi, my name is Michael. I'm applying to med school right now. Actually, just graduated from Wake. I had a question. So I had a question about home versus away rotations. So I know you guys are talking about how Advocate Health kind of spans across a lot of states, and kind of talking to some of the residents right now. They're kind of saying that you can have an advantage by being able to do home rotations in Winston-Salem and Charlotte. Are home rotations going to be available in some of those states where Advocate Health is?
It's a good question. We'll recruit you to have those we have been having those conversations currently. They're not currently fourth-year rotations where students can rotate across that entire Advocate Health system, but we are having those conversations today to identify those. And there are unique opportunities to see patients in areas that aren't Winston and Charlotte that would add tremendous value to the student experience. And that's one of the benefits of the school being a part of that health system. So maybe by the time you're a fourth year, that's definitely a part of the plan and continued growth.
Actually, I had 2 questions. One to kind of piggyback on that, and I was curious about just the rural communities in North Carolina where there's vast need, and I think you did address that question, but how to prepare for practicing in those communities where resources would be different versus an urban community where, again, it would be a different set of resources and support.
Yeah, either one. I think, really what this allows us to do as you look between our 2 places, and we drive back and forth frequently, is there is that big rural area. And we already have students out in Cabarrus. Anson is really looking to continue to grow that. We've actually been part of several endeavors lately with that local community to have students and actually have more opportunities for them to train there. But also what's nice is all of the resources are so portable, and we already have a great group of faculty that teach out there, and the fourth-year electives are been very popular.
As a result of the growth of the school and sort of bringing on new faculty who are practicing in those rural areas, it's really creating opportunities for students to shadow and rotate there and be engaged in those communities. This is going to be tremendously important. Students that rotate in rural areas will go to rural areas. Students that are exposed to rural patients outside of that rural setting are less likely to go there. And so we just approved in our last curriculum committee a new fourth-year elective for students to rotate at a few of these sites. So that's I think, been a frequent conversation. Second? Sure.
I had one more, and actually I was curious with the new curriculum, just what type of supports are the students receiving outside of their education, the formal education, in terms of just kind of their health, their well-being, their support of one another, just knowing how complex and complicated things will continue to be?
Great question. The question is, how do you support all the rest of the student outside of the curriculum? This is tough. for those who went through med school, you will know or maybe be delighted and at the same time, struggle to hear that step 1 is now pass-fail, which was going to be a great thing, except now it's moved all of the stress of matching to day 1 of medical school. So students start, and day 1, they're signing up for elective this and extracurricular that, and then the curriculum this. It's really difficult to be a medical student today. And it's always been the case, but the pressure that are put on students is tremendous. Wake does a phenomenal job in this department. All students are assigned to and have access to a non-clinician coach, a personal and professional development coach, as well as a clinician advisor. And that's from day 1. They meet with those people regularly. There's access to formal counseling and well-being services, but that emotional support of what happens when you experience the first patient that dies, what happens when you see that first CPR, all of that emotional toll of medical school is very much an important part of the resources available to students that are part of the standing process.
Yeah, I pretty much had the same question. I was wondering what programs you have to support students' mental health. A slight variant to that, is there anything that you all are doing, we never had this in medical school and training, for them to learn themselves? I mean, develop some insight, because not everybody's the same. You have different strengths, different weaknesses. If you know what they are, that's really important to know. I mean, you can work around some of them, they're not going to change. But if you know yourself and you learn yourself quickly, you know where you're weak and where you're strong, and you can figure out workarounds. Do you have anything like that?
You want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, really that whole idea of growth mindset, it's a lot more introspective than, I experienced, because, let's face it, everybody that comes to med school or anybody that comes to higher education now, they're smart. They wouldn't be there if they're not smart. And that's really where, from day 1, really talking about we're smart and we all have to grow. And so part of that is developing the learning skills, but also the reflective skills. That's why I love Wake Forest has been part of this Kern Foundation grant, which is really on personal and professional identity development, which is really a lot about who am I, my context of how can I care for someone better, that I'm not just a physician. So it's really much more about that personal growth, but with that sense of how we can give to others and how we can give to the community.
And I think this is what's really exciting about the problem-based learning curriculum that Dr. Birch introduced. The goal of that curriculum is to teach students how to think about the problem, how to get to the answer, as opposed to end 18 months knowing all about medicine. Gone are the days where we're going to let you know everything you need to know at 18 months or 3 years or 4 years. And the goal is that students know how they will approach the patient and the problem that's in front of them, and that they have the knowledge. Students are getting knowledge, we're delivering knowledge, but they have the skills to know how they learn and how they will continue to learn and who they are and what their strengths are, how they connect with people. And that's really front and center in the curriculum delivered on this campus.
Yeah, each week they'll actually get feedback on not just their clinical decision making, but were they a good teammate? Did they listen? How was their self-directed learning? Meaning when they had to go research a problem and then present it the next day, did they use evidence-based resources? So it is a constant kind of cycle, but really all about developing the future physician. We can't memorize everything anymore. You really need to know how to look it up quickly, but how to look up the best evidence. Google will not give you the best evidence, and the students need to learn that.
Hello, I'm a proud Wake PA graduate, and healthcare has certainly evolved in my 20 years. We see more of a team-based care model. What are you going to do to prepare your graduates to ensure that they're ready for that team-based care approach?
Great question. So that is part of the feedback they get, and they are a team. Those eight students have to really work together. So they get that in their clinical skills curriculum, as well as the simulation. A lot of that is really developing a team, not just I am the physician, I know everything, but turning to your nurse and really recognizing those skills there, turning to your PA, understanding everybody's role. We do team-based CPR, and a lot of the debrief is how do we communicate with each other? Because to effectively handle a difficult situation, we need to work as teammates.
Yeah.
I just had another question. So, in talking to a lot of medical students, something they find really valuable is mentorship from M2s, 3s, and 4s. I'm obviously really excited about the opportunity to maybe like start something new in Charlotte, but I was just wondering if there's any system in place to have mentorship maybe from the other campus, from older medical students.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love, the Wake students are just such good mentors. I mean, there's formal mentors, but you know, now even with our Charlotte third-year students and the fourth years, and Ulysses has been a great mentor. As you know, we have him. You were part of a crew that we just met with some of the M1s to talk about the Charlotte campus and the Winston campus. And they do it informally, but they also do it in some formal networking as well as the student interest groups. So it's continuing as well as then the career mentors.
Google search Navigating Medical School. It's a student-run program that's kind of a near-peer mentoring program for students developed by Wake students, delivered to Wake students, in addition to all of the stuff that just happens. Or you can just turn around and ask that guy behind you all the secret questions, you know.
Let's see if we can take one more question.
Some of the best education that I got as a medical student was working with house staff. I know this house staff in Winston. Are you going to have house staff here, or all your clinical rotations going to be away from the...
Great question. So yeah, we've actually had residencies here for 50 years. Dr. Hall has actually been overseeing. So our students are already working with house staff in just about every department. The only residencies we don't have yet are ENT, ophthalmology. And then that's where the beauty of the fourth year is that we actually have already matched students successfully in Charlotte in ENT and ophtho. And it's really because, again, of our great community mentors, our Charlotte ENT, but then they have the opportunity to go to Winston. And so what I've always said is really you get the best of both worlds with two campuses. You get to know faculty and clinicians at two campuses. You can mix and match in your fourth year. And our residencies will probably continue to grow. Neurology residency is just starting. But we actually have a PM&R residency here. They don't in Winston-Salem, so it's kind of nice. So our students in Winston that want to do PM&R come down to here.
All right, very good. Well, thank you, doctors. You were wonderful. We very much appreciate the great questions from the audience, and obviously these two folks have been just instrumental to the development of our programs, and we're deeply appreciative. We have been very fortunate as we're working to support the growth of the school. In November of 2023. We actually kicked off a campaign known as the Envision campaign, and we, at that point, were very focused on research for the School of Medicine and the programs going on there. We have made tremendous progress in that campaign, and you didn't hear this yet because it's not yet public, but we will be extending that campaign and growing it to include scholarships. Because of everything that's going on with students, you can see we have a lot of excitement around the school, and we really want to make sure that that next generation of providers is able to get through school without all of the concerns about debt associated with tuition. So we're excited to kick off that portion of the campaign, and that will be coming out in 2024. We're also excited about our partnership with the Atrium Health Foundation here in Charlotte. Obviously, big supporters of the school, excited to have the campus down here, and we're very, very happy to be working in partnership with them. So we thank all of you for being here this evening. Appreciate great questions from the group. We hope that you will go out in the community and spread the word about all the great things happening with the school here and in Winston. And we look forward to coming back and doing more of this with you. So thank you very much. Have a great evening.